As Ecuador prepares for the upcoming second-round presidential vote, the National Electoral Council will hold a nationwide technical simulation this Sunday to evaluate the operational and logistic procedures of the election. Chile and Bolivia have announced the closure of their borders in a bid to curb rising coronavirus infections, while the health crisis intensifies in neighboring Brazil, where more than 600 municipalities are at risk of running out of medical oxygen. The Organization of Oil Exporting Countries and Allies announced the increase of its production from next quarter. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm Gladys Quesada. We begin with Ecuador, where this Sunday the National Electoral Council will hold a nationwide technical simulation to evaluate the operational and logistic procedures ahead of the April 11th second round presidential vote. Electoral Council authorities reported that the activity will be held in real time with the presence of every individual and institution involved in the electoral process. The simulation will test the elements of the vote transmission system as well as ballot and result notifications. The application and strengthening of the biosecurity protocol will also be evaluated while taking into consideration the feedback from international observer missions to the first round vote. Ecuador's National Emergency Operations Committee on Thursday suggested that President Lenín Moreno decree a state of emergency in at least 8 provinces of the country due to the surge in COVID-19 cases. The committee recommended the new measures to face the health crisis in the hardest hit provinces of the country. Committee President Juan Zapata pointed out that the restrictions will be enforced for a period of 30 days and measures will be guaranteed so that citizens can exercise the right to vote in the second round of the presidential elections scheduled for April 11th. The suggested measures will come into effect on April 9th, and security forces will be in charge of ensuring compliance. The Chilean Senate is set to debate the constitutional amendment that will allow the postponement of the upcoming elections for 5 weeks due to the critical situation posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. The reform was approved by the Chamber of Deputies with 126 votes in favor, 3 against and 11 abstentions. The Senate Committee on Constitution, Legislation, Justice and Rules of Procedure approved the bill in general on Wednesday, but the plenary of the Senate has until Thursday to submit any indications regarding the details for the reform and issue the final approval. President Sebastián Piñera requested the change from April 10th and 11th to May 15th and 16th, arguing that the health crisis required the postponement of the vote. Chile has reported close to 1 million COVID-19 cases and more than 23,000 fatalities and seen a surge in recent months. In Bolivia, the training of electoral jurors for the upcoming second round of the regional and municipal elections continues. The training is being held in the departments of Tarija, Chuquisaca, and La Paz. Electoral coordinators and trainers will visit the 363 polling stations set up for the runoff election in order to train the jurors on the site and in small groups. Jurors will be instructed on the voting procedure, the filing out of the ballots, and the biosecurity measures in voting centers. The training will continue until April the 10th, with the vote to be held the following day. And we'll be right back after this very short break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. The government of Chile has declared the total closure of its borders during the whole month for April due to the health emergency posed by COVID-19. The measure that will come into effect as of Monday, April the 5th, was announced on the same day the country registered the highest number of daily COVID-19 infections since the beginning of the pandemic, at over 7,800. In addition, authorities registered 193 new COVID-19 related fatalities in the last 24 hours. The government also announced an earlier start to the curfew that has been enforced for the past year at 10 p.m. and the restriction of some activities considered essential until now. These measures follow a strict lockdown that has been enforced since last weekend for some 16.5 million residents. Bolivian Health Minister Jason Ausa announced that the country will close its border with Brazil from Friday for at least a week to protect against the COVID-19 variant first identified there, which has sparked a surge in infections in Bolivia.
In effect as 0 hours from Friday for a period of 7 days at the border points with the Federative Republic of Brazil. Daily border transit will be allowed for a period of 3 hours. A certified negative real-time PCR test will be required for all persons and all travelers over 5 years of age. Self-isolation for at least 10 days after entering Bolivian territory will be required, as well as a sworn statement of the place of stay and a real-time PCR test to be carried out on the 7th day. This border closure
report released Thursday by Brazil's National Confederation of Municipalities, more than 600 Brazilian municipalities are at risk of running out of medical oxygen. Some cities, such as Sao Paulo, recently announced the installation of oxygen cylinder factories to supply hospitals in the face of the risk of a complete lack of supplies. In addition, in another 1,141 municipalities, there is a risk of lack of intubation equipment for COVID-19 patients who require artificial ventilation. In Argentina, people aged over 70 continue to receive Russia's Sputnik V COVID-19 vaccine in Buenos Aires province, as the country experiences a second wave of the virus with more than 16,000 new cases in one day.
Between 60 and 70% occupancy of intermediate care beds and intensive care beds as well. Today I'm getting my first dose and in 3 months the second one, and I'm going to be as excited as I am right now. I'm waiting for the vaccine because I have faith that we are going to escape from this pandemic, and for that to happen we need things like this, vaccination. Hopefully it will be over after that.
Argentina has now vaccinated more than 2.3 million people as authorities work non-stop to secure different vaccines to tackle COVID-19. Our correspondent Juan Carlos Bertolotta brings us more details in the following report.
In a race to protect the health of the population and have the tools to face the pandemic, the Argentine government continues to bring shipments of vaccines to the country. This week, 300,000 doses of the Sputnik V vaccine arrived at the Ezeiza airport, of which 250,000 are of the first dose, while another plane already left for China for the next shipment.
We are receiving a new Aerolíneas Argentinas flight that is bringing 300,000 doses of vaccines. These are 252,000 doses of component 1 and the rest of component 2, and en route to China is another flight run by our flagship airline to bring another 1 million doses. And we are working together to continue bringing the greatest number of doses as soon as possible, with all areas of the national government working together.
Meanwhile, Defense Minister Agustín Rossi offered details on the number of vaccines the country has and their importance at a time when the consequences of a second wave are already being felt. With this shipment of vaccines that is arriving, we have secured 5.8 million doses that are arriving in Argentina, and when the plane that just left for the People's Republic of China returns with 1 million doses of the Sinopharm vaccine, we will be close to 7 million doses. Therefore, the goal that we proposed, which was to normalize the frequency of the reception of vaccines, and therefore the pace of the vaccination campaign, is slightly faster. We have the objective of vaccinating the greatest number of Argentines, and above all, the at-risk population, to have the best response, as what is clearly being witnessed now is an increase in cases. Since the end of December, Argentina's flagship airline has been conducting special flights operations with the objective of bringing vaccines to the country. In the 10 completed round trips, nearly 4 million of the doses elaborated by the Gamaleya Institute were brought to the country, while this Wednesday, the 11th plane departed with the same destination, although the amount of doses it will bring was not specified.
Juan Carlos Bartolota, TeleSUR, Argentina.
The government of Sri Lanka received the first batch of doses of Sinopharm against COVID-19 vaccine as part of a donation from China. The President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, accompanied by other political leaders, received the shipment at Bandaranaike International Airport in Colombo, where the signature of the certificate for the official delivery of the doctors was carried out. During the ceremony, the Minister of State of Pharmaceutical Production, Supply and Regulation, Shana Yasumana, thanked the government and the Chinese people for their collaboration, considering the donation as a fundamental milestone in the relationship between the two countries. The German government will impose a curfew on the capital to prevent the spread of coronavirus. The measure will enter into force on the 2nd of April. The authorities explained through a statement that the curfew in Berlin will apply from 9 p.m. local time to 5 a.m. The restriction will affect public spaces. In that period of time, only people will be allowed to stay in the street with their partner and children or their 14, while meetings between members of different families were prohibited. The Russian Direct Investment Fund and Toprich Pharma have agreed to produce over 100 million doses of the Russia's two-shot Sputnik V vaccine against COVID-19 in China. The fund, which markets Sputnik V globally, said the two sides plan to cooperate on clinical trials in China and to promote its use there. Toprich Pharma, a subsidiary company of one of China's pharmaceutical market leaders, Tibet Rhodiola Pharmaceutical Holding, will be able to distribute the vaccine in mainland China as well as in Hong Kong, Macau and Taiwan, subject to all appropriate regulatory approvals. To date, Sputnik V has been registered in 58 countries globally, with a total population of over 1.5 billion people. The Deputy Health Minister of Iran, Mariam Hasrati, reported that the country has vaccinated around 80% of health workers dealing with COVID-19 patients. The official noted that Iran is busy vaccinating citizens while prioritizing health workers and doctors working on intensive care units and on the front line of the battle against the coronavirus. The Deputy Minister also explained that the vaccination of other citizens, particularly high-risk groups of people, will be done gradually based on protocols set out the Health Ministry. Despite the progress made to control the pandemic in the country, the official expressed concern that travel and visiting relatives during the Iranian New Year holidays could lead to a fourth wave of the epidemic. And we have more stories coming up after this final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. On Thursday, the Organization of Oil Exporting Countries and Allies announced the increase of its production from next quarter. At the 15th ministerial meeting, the member states agreed on a gradual increase in oil production levels by May, June and July following the solidification of the COVID-19 vaccination campaigns. The Ministry of Energy of Kazakhstan detailed through a statement that at the meeting it was agreed to increase oil production by 350,000 barrels per day in May, at the same amount in June, and 450,000 barrels in July. They also announced that the next meetings of the Ministerial Joint Monitoring Committee of OPEC Plus and the Ministers of the Alliance are scheduled for next 28th April in order to strengthen cooperation as guarantee of stability on world oil market. Vietnam assumed the rotating presidency of the United Nations Security Council this Thursday, its second time in the seat during the 2020 to 2021 tenure. As scheduled, the nation will share around 30 minutes at events that represent the Security Council in working with non-member nations, other UN organizations, international institutions, and the media throughout April. According to Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Phan Binh Minh, Vietnam's commitment in this term is to be a partner for sustainable peace. One of the most important upcoming events is the open debate scheduled for April 19th, with the theme Strengthened Cooperation between the United Nations and regional organizations in promoting trust and dialogue in conflict prevention and resolution. Vietnam will also share a ministerial meeting on overcoming bomb and mine consequences and maintaining sustainable peace. On Thursday, China and Malaysia agreed that high-quality Belt and Road cooperation is advancing their bilateral ties to a new level. The statements came as Chinese State Councillor and Foreign Minister Wang Yi held talks with Malaysian counterpart Hisham Mudin Hussein in Nan Pinyin City, Fujian Province. Wang said China is willing to work with Malaysia to continue to promote cooperation to bring more benefits to the peoples of the two countries in the post-pandemic period. He also expressed China's willingness to enhance cooperation on COVID-19 vaccine and drug research, as well as fields including 5G technology, the digital economy, and modern agriculture. The Malaysian Foreign Minister is among 4 foreign ministers from Southeast Asian nations to visit China at the invitation of Wang Yi from March 31st to April 2nd. On Thursday, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov hosted his counterpart from Turkmenistan in Moscow. The two foreign ministers acknowledged the advances made in bilateral relations, especially in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Friendship and solidarity were fully manifested in fighting the coronavirus infection. We have provided help and support to each other. We are grateful for your decision to send us, as friendly gestures, goods produced in Turkmenistan for covering needs of the Astrakhan region. This was very symbolic and truly demonstrated the real qualities of our relations. I also would like to thank you, and through you, all the Russian colleagues for the support that Russia has provided to Turkmenistan in counteracting this global threat, the coronavirus pandemic. We're also grateful, I said this already to the government, to be the first country to help Turkmenistan, providing PCR tests as friendly humanitarian aid when this was very complicated. In general, we have received about 186,000 coronavirus tests systems from Russia. 120,000 among them were free of charge.
Capital Brussels used water cannon to disperse crowds of people who gathered for a party in the city's Bois de la Camp park this Thursday. Authorities responded to reports for a Facebook event planned for April 1st, with over 60,000 saying they plan to attend. Obligatory mask wearing outdoors, nighttime curfews, and restaurant and bar closures have been in place in the country since the start of November. However, a Belgian court ruled on Wednesday the state should either lift all coronavirus measures within 30 days or frame them properly as law. Hospitalizations due to COVID-19 have risen consistently in recent weeks, and Belgian health authorities have warned that intensive care unit occupancy could reach critical levels by April the 10th if the pace of the infections does not slow. In Namibia, villagers living near the Okavango Delta have warned their livelihoods are at risk after Canadian company Recon Africa brought licenses from the Namibian government to conduct exploratory oil drilling across the country, as well as in neighboring Botswana. The oil is thought to be situated specifically in the Okavango Basin, a large area which covers most of the Namibia and Botswana, but also Angola, South Africa, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. Parts of the basin are also home to some of the world's most beautiful unspoiled landscapes and a vast array of exotic wildlife, some of which are at risk of extinction, at hundreds of species of birds. Plans to drill from oil have not gone down well with environmentalists or local residents.
Can't afford a lawyer who could help me to stand up against this oil company.
I'm worried because the things, the oil they are doing. We don't know what the effect of that oil and our environment.
The wildlife will be diminished and the beauty and pure nature that's here will be harmed in some way.
You educated people who already have comfortable lives. You want to restrict development here. That means we will stay poor and probably die poor.
Mozambican military spokesperson have assured that soldiers deployed in the northern town of Palma, where jihadist insurgents launched an attack last week, have almost entirely recovered control of the area. More than a week after jihadists staged a deadly coordinated raid on the strategic town, killing dozens of people and prompting the evacuation of thousands of residents, many still remain missing. Survivors have streamed into the port of Pemba, the capital of the gas-rich Cabo Delgado province. The attack is seen as the biggest escalation of the Islamist insurgency ravaging the province since 2017. One week after the violent attack in the Mozambican town of Palma, some families are finally finding some comfort in the arms of their loved ones, while others continue to despair without any news regarding those who remain missing.
People missing. They don't have water. They are just waiting for the ship to rescue them. Those who have money buy a bit of mandioca. Those who don't stay hungry. They were killed also on the beach where I was. They came to the beach where we were, these old Shab rebels. Some people ran away, others stayed, and they took women, boys, and children with them. Yes.
And we have come to the end of this news brief, but remember you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.